eating, drinking, breathing, sleeping. Animals do these by instinct, but we're different. We eat foods that are out of season and often highly processed. We drink water, but rarely enough. Many people breathe too quickly, and it's a rare person that gets deep, restful sleep at night. In this video, I'm going to talk about 8 ways you can rewild yourself and get back to the natural rhythms of health that every animal instinctively knows, but which we must learn. Eating. You would think, like any other animal, we'd know what to eat, but it's not that simple. Our relationship with food is very artificial. We can go to market and buy tropical fruit in the dead of winter, get meat from animals that never exercise and are filled with inflammatory fats. We've got companies selling us foods full of sugars, preservatives, and pesticides, and even if we try to eat naturally, plant breeding since the dawn of the agricultural revolution has increased the sugar content and decreased the medicinal bitter content of fruits and vegetables. Grains, beans, nuts, and seeds are covered with mold from storage. Our soils are missing essential minerals, and some of us have microbiomes and immune systems so out of balance that even the otherwise low levels of naturally found anti-nutrients found in most plants that are there to protect them from herbivores cause symptoms requiring a mostly carnivore diet to maintain a semblance of health. So, what should we eat? First, we need a functioning microbiome, and for that, please watch the videos I've made on the microbiome. As for the food itself, it goes without saying, organic, natural food, but what specifically? Our digestive tract is somewhere between that of a wolf and a pig. Wolves are facultative but not obligate carnivores, which means that they mostly eat meat, but can and will eat plants, including berries, roots, and squash. Pigs are omnivores. They eat everything. Wolves eat the small intestines of their kill, which is where the digested plant matter and bicarbonate are found. Wolves also eat bones for their mineral content, especially calcium. So, to eat like a wolf, our greens should be digested, that is, cooked, and we should supplement with bicarbonate to counter the acidity of meat. To increase bicarbonate in the body, I suggest you consider our bicarbonate product. To increase minerals, consider a multi-mineral supplement, specifically one that is made with glycinates. To eat like a pig, we need a wide variety of food sources so as not to develop food sensitivities or other imbalances. We can divide foods into fats, proteins, and sugars, but I prefer the division of plants and animals. Plants can be classified into grains and beans, nuts and seeds, fruits, roots, tubers, and squash, leaves, spices, and flowers, oils, and fungi. Animals can be divided into milk, meat, fish, birds, eggs, and animal fats. Plant foods have been bred to be sweeter and sweeter since the dawn of human agriculture. Plant foods also contain anti-nutrients such as lectins and oxalates. Thus, grains, beans, nuts, and seeds should be soaked and germinated for 48 hours before cooking or eating raw in the case of nuts and seeds. This both lowers the amount of anti-nutrients like lectins and oxalates, but also reverses some of the effects of plant breeding by converting some of the sugars in the grains and beans into vitamins and other beneficial compounds. Also, nuts, seeds, and most vegetable oils should only play a minor role in our diet due to their inflammatory and sex hormone-binding globulin content. Roots, tubers, and squash should be peeled and steamed and the water discarded to lower their oxalate content. Starchy food can also be chilled for 8 hours before eating to lower its glycemic index. Fruits should be fermented with probiotics like Saccharomyces boulardii and Lactobacillus plantarum to lower their glycemic index and support the microbiome. Leaves and flowers can be eaten raw. Spices on a case-by-case basis, and vegetable oils should be kept to a minimum. Some plant matter should never be eaten at all, or only very rarely, things like rhubarb, some spices, spinach, most kale, and other plants with a very high oxalate content. If you do wish to eat food with a high oxalate content, try cooking it with some kind of calcium, typically dairy. That will bind to the calcium, making calcium oxalate so you don't absorb it. If you want to create your own fermented products, we'll be coming out with a product in 2025 called Ventrivium that is a blend of probiotics that you can grow by yourself in fruit juice or fruit blended with water. Next, we have animal. This is on a case-by-case basis. You must experiment to see which kind of animal tissue your body tolerates. Many people have a dairy and/or egg allergy. Animal fats other than fish oils can also be inflammatory, even if eaten from grass-fed animals, so pay attention to how you feel when you eat them. To eat like a pig, that is an omnivore, find as many different food types to eat as possible. So, for a proper diet, find a few fruit, starch, and protein sources that work for you. For me, it's apples, grapes, berries, plums, and cherries, all of which ferment nicely for fruit. For starch, I eat potatoes, forbidden rice, barley, and adzuki beans. For animals, I eat raw hamburger, slow-cooked brisket, oysters, salmon, and chicken. I also eat rosemary, oregano, shiitake mushrooms, and salt for flavor. If you don't eat beans, consider 3 tablespoons of organic psyllium husk powder once a day mixed with water or in the fermented fruit drink for fiber content. You have to experiment to find your optimal fuel, and it will change both with the seasons and as you get older. Okay, that's the food going in. Let's talk about the food going out, that is defecation. The term for the movement of food and stool through the body is peristalsis. That's the wave-like squeezing of the intestinal tubes that moves food forward. Technically speaking, there are many kinds of peristalsis, including some that go back and forth to mix food. But for this video, I'm only going to discuss the peristalsis that triggers defecation. So, what triggers peristalsis? First, you have to be calm. If you're in a fight or flight state, peristalsis will slow or stop. Or, sometimes, you'll end up with the runs, neither of which are functional. To be calm, we need to be hydrated, more on this shortly, and have our cortisol under control. If you'd like some help staying calm and centered during the stresses of life, consider our autonomous product. Assuming you're calm enough, there are 3 hormones that trigger peristalsis: gastrin, motilin, and cholecystokinin. Gastrin is released when food stretches out the stomach. As the food full of hydrochloric acid for the stomach enters the small intestine, it triggers the release of cholecystokinin. Cholecystokinin then releases digestive enzymes from the pancreas and bile from the gallbladder to start digestion in the small intestine. Both pancreatic juices and bile are full of bicarbonate, which neutralizes the hydrochloric acid of the stomach so that you don't digest your own small intestine. The bicarbonate then triggers the release of motilin, which continues the digestive process. Finally, the large intestine also has a say in the matter. The job of the colon is to support the microbiome. One of the main functions of the microbiome is to make short-chain fatty acids. If the microbiome is sick and only making toxic short-chain fatty acids instead of healthy ones, or if the microbiome is small and not making enough healthy short-chain fatty acids, the colon may slow peristalsis to give the microbiome more time to make the short-chain fatty acids the body needs. One issue is when the microbiome never makes enough healthy short-chain fatty acids to give the colon the all-clear signal to finish the peristalsis process. What happens is the colon will ignore the 3 hormones, gastrin, cholecystokinin, and motilin. Eventually, the pressure in the colon from all the backed up feces and the irritation from the toxic short-chain fatty acids will trigger a toxic peristalsis, and this will lead to diarrhea. This explains why some people will alternate from constipation to diarrhea back and forth. Also, you should never need toilet paper. If a person has a runny nose that they have to wipe, you'd say they have a lung or sinus infection. Using toilet paper after you go to the bathroom is the same thing. It means you have a cold or an infection, but not in your sinuses or nose, but in your guts. No healthy animal soils itself, and we shouldn't either. If your diet gets your stool to a pH of 5.7 to 6.2, if you never need toilet paper, and if you defecate when you wake up and 30 minutes after every meal, and if your stool sinks to the bottom of the toilet bowl with very little smell, congratulations, you probably figured out your diet and your microbiome. If not, you might want to watch our microbiome videos. Okay, that's eating food. What about drinking? The thirst signal is controlled by osmoreceptors in a part of the brain called the lamina terminalis. When these special brain cells shrivel from dehydration, they trigger the sensation of thirst. The issue is that many people have ignored this signal for so long that the brain thinks that it's in a state of drought, and so it limits the thirst signal. To keep blood pressure from going too low from dehydration, the body then releases the hormones aldosterone and vasopressin. Aldosterone is made in the adrenal cortex and causes kidneys to conserve sodium and lose potassium to keep the blood pressure from dropping as a result of dehydration. This is an excellent emergency response, but a terrible long-term strategy. High sodium and low potassium are also found in all cancer cells, as well as many other chronic conditions, and of course, it does nothing to address the problems caused by the dehydration or the dehydration itself. Vasopressin is made by the hypothalamus and tries to conserve water by causing the kidneys to concentrate urine, but this is terribly hard on the kidneys, constricts the arterioles, and leads to high blood pressure and poor circulation. Again, it does not address the root cause of the dehydration or the problems the dehydration causes. These are both emergency responses, but we tend to have them operating 24/7. If you get thirsty, you are already in a state of dehydration. Unlike food, where it is better to eat when you're hungry, with liquids, it's better to drink before you're thirsty. If you do this, then your blood volume will increase. This will give a little stretch to the heart muscle from the increased blood volume. This stretch then triggers a different set of hormones called the natriuretic peptides. These three known natriuretic peptides are the opposite of aldosterone and vasopressin. They cause urination in response to high blood volume. They also suppress the sympathetic system, meaning they calm you down. This is what we want: urine formation from high blood volume. In other words, drink before you're thirsty, and it will calm you down, and it will trigger urine production. What I do is I drink a few sips of water after every urination. This keeps me urinating every few hours. It's good for the kidneys and the whole body. I then stop at around 5 p.m. so I don't have to get up and urinate in the middle of the night. What about breathing? At night, many people have breathing difficulties. This is called sleep apnea, hypopnea, and snoring. During the day, we tend to breathe too fast. If you get a blood test and your CO2 level in your blood is 25 or less, you may be hyperventilating. Low CO2 is associated with anxiety, fatigue, nerve disorders, and ammonia toxicity, to name just a few. Stress can cause you to breathe faster, and faster breathing is stressful. Animals that breathe very quickly tend not to live as long as those that breathe more slowly. A tortoise, one of the slowest breathing animals, is also the longest lived, breathing 4 times a minute and living to be 300 years old. Hummingbirds, on the other hand, breathe 360 times a minute and live for only 3 years. As a rough rule, if you divide 1,200 by the animal's breaths per minute, you get its lifespan in years. The average human breathes about 16 times a minute and lives about 75 years. So if we can breathe at a rate of 8 times a minute, how much longer might we live? To break out of this cycle, you can try our bicarbonate product to directly support the body in maintaining proper CO2 levels, and our autonomous product to support getting out of the fight or flight sympathetic response that caused the faster breathing in the first place. What about sleep? We should be asleep at no later than 11 p.m. every night. We should fall asleep easily and wake rested in the morning. We should finish eating 5 hours before we go to sleep. This allows the digestive system to go through the giant migratory contractions that clean out the intestines. Also, your environment lighting should shift away from blue towards red in the evening. If you do all these things and you still don't sleep well, you may have sleep apnea, hypopnea, or snoring. Sleep apnea is when you actually stop breathing completely and is caused by an obstruction in the airway at night and can happen in the sinuses, the soft palate, or the epiglottis, or a little of each. Snoring isn't sleep apnea, it's sleep hypopnea. In this case, you keep breathing, but it's labored, and this also stresses the body and interferes with sleep. I discuss sleep disturbances in great detail in a separate sleep apnea video. If you don't wake refreshed, I suggest you watch that video. Next, we have sunlight. Sunlight is to the immune system what sleep is to the brain. Every night when we sleep, our brain sorts out memories from the day. Irrelevant information is forgotten. Important facts are transferred to long-term memory. Deprive someone of sleep and they will go mad. They will become paranoid, delusional, and self-destructive. Sanity requires that we filter out and forget useless information. The same is true for the immune system. However, it isn't sleep that removes bad data from the immune system. Rather, it is ultraviolet light. We spend our days inside and wearing clothes, so we are all UV deficient. One result is that the immune system gets overloaded with irrelevant information. As a result, we can get allergies and autoimmune issues and chronic infections. This is the equivalent of an immune system that is going mad. If you can spend some time in the sun every day with most of your clothes off, perhaps a solarium in the winter months, this can help your immune system remove the corrupt data from its memory banks. If you can't, consider our ultraviolet reset device, which delivers the exact wavelengths of ultraviolet light needed to support a balanced and healthy and sane immune system. Next comes movement. We're meant to walk at least 6 miles a day, but with office jobs and driving, that's not realistic. I keep a treadmill by my desk, but if you can't do that, at least get a stand-up desk so you don't spend your whole day sitting and limiting circulation to your digestive and sexual organs. For more information about how to get some of the benefits of exercise from lactic acid supplementation, consider watching our Lactamet video. Finally, we have grounding. We are meant to walk barefoot on the ground, absorbing 200 volts of negative electricity. This continually free source of electricity powers our antioxidant system and many parts of our metabolism. But instead of walking barefoot, we have insulated rubber-soled shoes, walking over synthetic carpets, and we wear synthetic clothes while we're exposed to EMF. All of these things remove electrons from our bodies, so we are all electron deficient. For more information on this topic, I invite you to watch our electron charger videos. Eating, defecating, drinking, breathing, sleep, movement, ultraviolet light, and grounding. These are the basics, and if you master them, you'll go a long way towards improving your health. Take care.